Hey, everybody, welcome back to Too Many Men. My name is Allison Lucan, and I am delighted to be joined by someone who didn't just cover the Four Nations face-off, they covered the shit we all wanted to talk about to the point that they got international acclaim. The person who always dives into the issues that we need to dive into with an expert understanding of hockey all along the way. Sarah Simeon, how the hell are you?
Oh my God, Allison, I'm fantastic now. Thank you so much. Yes, I loved covering Four Nations. We'll get into it. Of course we will, because we are not done talking about this yet.
Wonderful. Look at you. And on behalf of Stephen, I say we are.
We are the most we've ever been. Penn State hockey, we're back in at number 15, baby, after a sweep of Michigan State.
Look at you. Look at you. And then, if there is anyone who is making the fashion I want to wear, let me tell you, I will spoil a little bit of a surprise and say that I'm getting multiple items sent to me as we speak because I couldn't pick just one. And it is the person who, on a dime, can tell you exactly what your lineup should be or what it isn't or why it isn't working for any team in any league. It is the illustrious, the brilliant, the gorgeous Shayna Goldman. Shayna, say hi.
Hi, your stuff should be arriving today or tomorrow, actually. I'm very excited.
Oh, I'm very excited.
My
Very, very
So
favorite
sick.
influencers. And then Sarah, next week, I
Oh my
cut
God,
for you. I'm ready. Here we are. Like, this is what we need.
I can't
here
wait.
we are. So
Here we are, Penn State.
there we go.
Wow. Do you know what's so funny? Like, just thinking about it right now, like, I actually almost went to Penn State. Imagine I did and we were besties in college.
We would have
And like,
been besties.
we really would have been. We would have found each other in a sea of a zillion people and been like, look at this. Too many
Well,
men before too many men happened.
I
because
feel
we'd
so
be at
good.
the rink. The hockey team went from club to D1 when we were in college, so we would have found each other there.
Yeah.
I love that ring so much. So nice. All right. Well, again, my friends, we have been away for a couple of weeks, so we've got to get right into it. Sarah Abigail Sivian, what time is it?
Bit oh news.
It is time for Bit O News. And since so much has happened, but not a ton has happened in the NHL as we've been rightly away, we're going to get right into it. We're going to talk about the Four Nations face-off. Sarah was there. We all watched it. Honestly, I was over everyone being like, oh my gosh, the players actually were into it. We get it. Like, tell us a new storyline. But Sarah, let's start with you. You were there. First of all, let's just do a vibe check. What did you think of the overall tournament? Were you impressed? What impressed you the most? What stood out when you look back now on that crazy, whatever it was, week and a half?
Well, it's funny because we talked about this before the tournament. You asked me if I thought that players were actually going to care about it. And I said, you know what? I didn't think so initially, but the second Sidney Crosby locked in, I thought everybody was going to care about it. And he was kind of the pacemaker of the entire tournament. I know he was injured and I know he was playing on the wing, but a quote stood out from him when I was interviewing players or in the scrums at least, because there's 700 other people interviewing the players. But everybody on Team USA was acting like this was the most important game of their life. And somebody asked Crosby, like, where this ranks in all of his stuff. And he's like, you know what? I've done a lot of stuff. I care about this, but let's be kind of on it. So I think it was the championship was the second most watched hockey game of the decade. Okay. This matters. And you could feel that when you were there and present for it. And I think I even bought into like to it. And why wouldn't I? I want the sport to grow. I want USA hockey to be a growth bed for hockey. And I think it definitely accomplished that, or we will see more interest in hockey. How do we hone in on it? But like another vibe check from there is they kept playing the miracle thing. And I was like, I mean, you can't have it both ways. Is the USA underdogs or are they not anymore? It was intense and awesome in the moment, but they had punched their ticket to the championship first and defeating the big bad Soviets. It's like we were the Soviets. So I think it's time to drop that. But it was
You can think, I'm
electric.
sorry, I don't think you would have gotten that unless the game was on, if it was on another network, because they're showing clips from it and like you can watch this on Disney Plus
Mm-hmm.
because it's all the ABC ESPN network.
Right.
I swear that is the only reason that was out there.
That makes perfect sense. I mean, it still hyped everybody, and I was like, all right, again, again, again. But great hockey, one of the closest games I've ever seen in my life, and it was an event.
So, Sarah, that actually brings up a really interesting point. And Shane, I want to get your thoughts on this. First of all, I think we all agree it was a blast. I think we all agree it was great for hockey, like Sarah just said. We'll get to that in a second. The hockey in and of itself was great. The games were entertaining, but Sarah's kind of right, right? Like when you watch the Canadians, like they didn't know what to do with the trophy after they won it. They were all kind of like, do we hold it up? Do we skate around? This is a little bit lame. And USA still can't win the big game. And then Sweden and Finland, and for different reasons, like there really wasn't like, oh my gosh, are they going to make it to the championship either? Like from an actual tournament construction, again, the results were amazing, but from a tournament construction, if you really want to look at it, like there were some flaws. Shayna, what do you think?
Yeah, of course. That's the reality of having four teams, and even with the Finland team being fully healthy, they were still the fourth team in the mix, right? Like I did something where I built a team Europe, I think it was back in September, and used Dom's model to see where it matched up to the teams. And even Team Europe, it would have been close to Sweden, but it was still USA and Canada's to lose. That was the reality of it. I think it's different from, say, the World Cup of Hockey, where you had, you know, Team Europe surprising and Team North America. Like it was a completely different vibe because yes, Canada still won, but it was a more surprising path to get there. And I think when you have a four-team tournament, you're obviously not going to have that. I think the fact that it was the most like intense and closely matched USA Canada matchup that we've seen in so long. I don't care that they've played, in 2010, they were the gold medal game because I don't think those teams were as closely matched as like the standings showed. I feel like here the excitement of it was that you had these two really good teams. So it added a flair to it that the tournament needed based on the fact that Sweden and Finland weren't where they could have been. But I'm hoping and I'm excited that, the next time we have the World Cup of Hockey, if it will be that like highly competitive environment again, because we're seeing so many other countries, like more players come from them. So maybe a Team Czechia is going to be a lot better than they could have been back then.
Sarah, I think we have to address the elephant in the room. Should all the countries be mad at Shayna for causing so many injuries?
Oh my God.
Absolutely, yes. She is the one that willed them all to play. She cared more about this tournament than anybody else. And she said, the Tkachuk brothers, you're cursed.
I need to issue an apology. I can't take it back now, but I'd like to issue I'm going to write a formal apology, okay? And I'll tweet it out from a notes app. Um,
We're
I just had predictions that one more player would miss the tournament, and then Shea Theodore got hurt, and I was just like, I didn't mean for this to happen. I was just on this like crazy prediction streak that I have officially ended. I have not predicted anything since because I don't want to be manifesting these things. You don't want to set these things in motion, but also like I don't think any of us anticipated it being this physical, and this is going to be the difference, right? Because we're all excited for Olympic hockey next year, but the rules are obviously a lot different, and I think that was the big change of the tournament we didn't see coming because you were worried like, will players actually be physical because who knows, like they could get hurt, they're not in the All-Star game. But on the other hand, like we generally don't see them have the chance to be like this. So the Olympics, I don't think we'll see as many injuries because I've already seen people being like, maybe players shouldn't go. Worry about the 2028 World Cup of Hockey if you're worried about the physical play, not the Olympics. That's just the freak things that can happen on any day in hockey.
See, this goes back to this was more of an entertainment thing, which is really important for the NHL than anything else. And people were like, where are they going to take this? And the fact that they could kind of take it wherever they wanted and it became chirping and USA versus Canada and fighting and stuff like that, you're not going to get that in the Olympics, like you just said. And you are going to get this in more of an entertainment free for all.
yeah, I
It's
was gonna
what's entertainment. It's wrestling.
Yeah.
I was gonna ask
Yeah.
you, but I'm gonna ask you both though too. In all seriousness, like you look at a Matthew Tkachuk who's currently not playing. You talk about Shea Theodore. There's other players as well. Like if you're a GM, aside from marketing the game, blah blah blah, like are you concerned this is going to happen again in what is it, 4 years now, 3 years, whatever it is? Like, are you
2028,
concerned?
yeah.
Are you concerned about letting your players play in this tournament, Sarah?
No, injuries happen no matter what. You know what I mean? Especially at this time of the year. It is now that they've done this, I guess they can figure out, especially because so many of these players, it was their first time playing for their nation in a tournament like this. That obviously increases the drama and entertainment too, and it's why it's so significant for so many Americans. But I think they'll learn how to adequately train for it better. And you look at Matthew Tkachuk, he has been on for years after winning the cup, coming back, like almost winning the cup. Like the amount of stress he's put on his body, it's kind of, I sense he probably would have gotten injured at some point during the regular season before the playoffs anyway. It's far away enough from the playoffs that you have time to recover, and it's close enough to the trade deadline, but not past the trade deadline so that you can make adjustments as needed.
Shayna, aside from the obvious conspiracy theory that the Canucks didn't let Quinn Hughes play so that the USA would lose, if you're a GM, would you let your players play in this tournament?
Yeah, yeah. Like I think John Cooper said it best after, the 3 fights in 9 seconds and all of that just like exploding. He's like, that is pent up energy from 10 years outside of the international bubble, right? For so many of these players, they either had experience at World Juniors or Team North America, but not actually, wearing a USA or Canada sweater. So it was such a moment for them. And you have to bring the energy. And I felt like with everything going on and then the booing of the anthems and all the discourse around the tournament, do the players care? Like I felt like they wanted to make a point like we give a shit. We really do. USA Canada, full stop. Anytime that's on, we give a shit. And you see it in the women's game every single year that there's a USA Canada matchup. Not just the rivalry series, but you see that the World Championship, like they care. And nobody's saying, well, they can't be a part of it. Will they will players maybe be more prepared for physical environment in 2028? Yes, they should be, but I don't know if it'll maybe be to the proportion that it was this time. It could be a little bit different. Like, who's to say? We don't really know where the game's even going to go by then, right? Like, what stylistic tweaks and trends are we going to see, and how will that affect the roster building too?
So, Sarah, let's get into the marketability of it. This is something that everyone's talking about. And then somehow this sub discourse was created that it's absolutely ridiculous that Americans are out marketing the game. And I'm looking specifically at the Tkachuk brothers. Matthew Tkachuk has been on What's His Face's show late night.
Jimmy
And
Fallon.
thank you very much. And if you haven't listened to it, I recommend. They both just appeared on New Heights, which is the Kelsey Brothers podcast, and it was actually phenomenal. If you want to look at two guys who get it in terms of being approachable, sharing who they are, and also marketing the game in an easily accessible way, it was so good. But now apparently people are big mad about this online. Sarah, your thoughts?
I have seen more people complain that people are mad about this than people actually mad about this. And like, that's just how maybe I follow the best people. I follow the best people. So that's partially why that's happening. Thinking about internet echo chambers a lot, but not even one person should be complaining about this. I mean, if you want to grow the game, that's how you do it. And obviously, this is an American show, and Matt Tkachuk is on a very American team that just won the cup, and he is bringing the drama. I don't understand why you'd be mad he wasn't on the show. I think I made the comparison to a friend the other day that this is like an average week in the life for like a B-list NBA player. So why not? Not only should Matt Tkachuk do it, but everybody should be doing more of it. So hopefully it opens the window of hockey interest.
Shayna?
Yeah, so I unfortunately did see a lot of discourse on it. And it was funny because during the tournament, everyone seemed to share the same opinion. There's so much momentum here. Build on it. And it was funny too because like when the tournament started, the first night I'm watching with my friends and one of my friends got multiple texts from people going like, I don't even know what this tournament is. Like I happened to flip on the TV and see it. What is it? And he's like, why didn't they market this well enough? And I'm like, well, they did on ESPN and TNT on commercials if you were already watching their games.
Four
But you're right, like
nations facing off.
Yeah.
a
Hi,
million
I'm
times
Connor
over.
McDavid.
Sidney
Sorry.
Crosby, like nonstop on NHL Network. That was marketing to the hockey fans already watching hockey, and it wasn't widespread enough. And I agreed on it. But as the games went on, people were interested, right? People turned on Channel 7 on Saturday night and watched it in the US. It was massive. Everyone agreed you need to harness that energy and build off the momentum. Well, here it is. And then there's fucking discourse. And it's like it's twofold. I'm seeing two different things. Like one, people are going, well, why is Matthew Tkachuk doing this media right now? First of all, do you live under a rock? Do you realize that he might be done for the regular season? He is injured. He is one of the few players who actually has the time to travel to New York to do this and then to do the Kelsey podcast, which they can do from the comfort of their own home or in a hotel room. It doesn't fucking matter. People do media appearances all the time. I don't hear you guys complaining when Sidney Crosby goes on Spit and Chicklets while he's sitting at his laptop on Zoom doing it. So why is this any different? Because he went to New York for one night? Like, get over it. And then it's, well, it shouldn't be USA after USA lost. Well, I'm sorry, Canadian fans, but your players are not going to get that same attention here, right? Like the Tkachuk brothers became a household name after this tournament because of their antics in it. And we don't need to be marketing to that many Canadian fans. Like you guys are grown up and like born to love hockey. That is not the case here. We're the inferior league here that like you need to do it in a way that's going to get people's attention. And finding some vanilla player who won this tournament isn't going to do that. So it's so weird how it's like market my game and build hockey, but only do it in the way that I approve. And it was the same shit when it was Tkachuk when he was on People magazine as the face of hockey. Like he has a personality. This is good. I don't care if you like him or not. Just roll with it.
Well, and that's what I was going to say. Like, I'm not even being an asshole about this. Who from Team Canada are you going to put on Jimmy Fallon and it's going to be entertaining? Like, I'm not kidding.
Brad Marchand.
Okay, fine.
Yeah.
That is a good answer.
And like
Good job.
Sorry.
No,
I was
you're right.
waiting for
You're
that
right.
one.
You're right. You're
Someone
right.
like-
You're
I'm
right.
the Team Canada ambassador, to be fair.
Yeah, like
Traitor.
listen, McKinnon or Hagel would be fun, but like Hagel doesn't have the name recognition. As big as he was in the
Yes.
tournament, he doesn't have the name recognition. Nathan
I don't think
McKinnon
Nathan
is
McKinnon would be fun. He'd be like,
He'd be
I
scary.
I feel like
he'd
What is this?
terrify
mid-season,
everyone.
yeah, and mid-season he would not do this type of thing, but he's also healthy and fighting for points. Like Matthew Tkachuk can't play, and also like he wasn't fighting.
Well,
Someone who fought, like you
Okay,
know, what I mean?
wait.
Go.
Yes, you're completely right. But I saw a TikTok yesterday that was like, my boyfriend loves when they get in 3 fights in 9 seconds, but when I do it, there's a problem.
Oh my
It's
God,
so
I love
funny.
that one.
It's
I've
Okay,
been
so
sorry.
seeing
funny.
I
way
just had
more
to
hockey
mention that at some
TikToks
point.
too.
Yes,
Like,
exactly. That's the kind of growth I love, like the boots on the ground. I saw a lot of like creators of color on TikTok saying they're going to pick a team that's close to them. And like, that's where I get really happy. Like, we are actually growing the game.
Yeah, the casual fan, listen, if you give them a Connor McDavid highlight reel, they're gonna love it. I'm sure they will because you can't not love watching him play or Nathan McKinnon. But like if you want to hook people, sometimes you need a little bit more spice. And seeing Matthew Tkachuk chew on his mouth guard, talk shit to everyone, and be a rat king, that's gonna attract more fans. That's gonna interest people. Like that element of the game still exists. Like it doesn't even matter how you feel about fighting or anything, but like that like shit talking and shit stirring is what people love. So if you're gonna use that, and like the same with Brady Tkachuk, like you said, Allison, like they just get it. They're two people with personalities who come from this hockey family and this sports family, and I feel like we're raised to like know how to take advantage of the moment. Even like Brady Tkachuk talking about the playoffs, saying like he's a professional playoff watcher. Like it's funny, and you're like, okay, that's endearing to me.
100%. And it like that's the thing. So should Travis Kelce no longer have his podcast because he lost the Super Bowl? Like, what
Yeah.
are we doing? Like it was two brothers with two brothers. It's actually really, really good. I listened. That was my homework, was to listen to that while I was walking.
Also,
I love it.
does Travis Kelce record all season?
I
Yes.
honestly
Yeah.
don't know. Okay.
No, he records
Yeah.
all throughout the season, and people don't complain. Well, I'm
It's
sure
not
they
that
complain for
fucking
other
hard.
reasons.
We do it. We do. They're gonna be okay. Everybody's gonna be
The
okay.
professional athletes that we are.
Yeah.
I want every time I see a player make a media hit, whether it's NHL Network, Chicklets, anything like that, let's throw a fit. Let's throw a total fit, right? Like
It's
I think Shane Wright was on Marek show the other day.
Yeah.
That's not allowed. No more. You can't have that. You can't have him in season. You have to have him during a bye week
Only
when
if they
he's on
win.
vacation.
No one is allowed to talk unless they win everything.
Yeah,
All the time.
And on practice days, players can't talk to the media anymore. That's it.
at the same time, okay, devil's advocate for a second.
Please.
I get the Canadians won there. This was politically and emotionally charged, and I understand you're mad at the Rat King. And I don't think they're thinking logically when people are criticizing
That's
this.
fair.
I think it's
Yeah.
like, okay, kind of a crash out tantrum like when you were 3. Like, but I won fair and square. It's my
Yeah.
birthday. I get the present or whatever. So it's not okay. Like calling it out, like, guys, just listen to how you're acting. You're acting like
Or,
you did when you were a
oh, look,
toddler.
he's doing it for the cameras. Look,
Yeah.
he's
Yes,
like,
he
he's
is,
using the name-
exactly.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
exactly. And do you think the NHL is not going, this is what we needed? Like something forced them into marketing these players in a different way. Like they're not trying to attract the hardcore hockey fans. This is for the average fan. And they went very young, right? Like the Kelsey brothers definitely have a very young following. And they went for Jimmy Fallon, which I know some people are like, well, who watches late night TV anymore? There are tons of people, and it might be someone at the end of their day has it on because they watched a show, and this is what happens to come on after. You're watching the news, and then like real adults do that still. People still use cable. Like, and if not, you're gonna see the TikTok clips of it, right? Like, I don't watch late night TV. I see clips on it on Instagram and TikTok all the time.
And there's nothing more fascinating than a loss. A win is boring. And we interviewed Nathan McKinnon after the win, and it was like the most boring interview of my life. But I feel I've been watching a lot of Full Swing and just looking at, I don't know if you guys watch golf, but Rory McIlroy after all of his loss, like the way he's describing it all on Full Swing is the most fascinating thing I've ever seen in my life. It's like people just need to be more comfortable with death and losing, okay?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that also like you're talking golf and it's making me think about tennis. And it was funny because like during the Australian Open, they did a lot of interviews and some of them were kind of boring. Like they're talking to Yannick Sinner, number one in the world, and they're the most dry interviews in the world. But then they talk to someone like Maddie Keys, who has not made it to a Grand Slam final in 10 years. And they like harnessed the momentum of her tournament the entire time they talked about it, that when she won, it was an even bigger moment. So now
Yeah.
you're talking to all these USA players that can build towards the Olympics and the Stanley Cup playoffs, right? Like if Brady Tkachuk makes the playoffs, you're going to think of all the media he did along the way, and you're going like it's going to take you to the team that's in a playoff position with Matthew in Florida, but also Ottawa potentially making the playoffs. Like that's a good story. The only other player I think could have maybe generated some interest for USA in the same way would have been like a Dylan Larkin, but he's healthy and busy, so I don't
Yeah, he's
expect
booked.
it versus Matthew and Brady, who have not played.
And, again, all fans of hockey need to remember that you need to market this game, particularly in the States, because there's no more seats in these buildings, folks. So if you want more money, you have to get it more eyes and more merch sold. So please stop complaining. I'm back to my old Twitter bio. I miss it so much. Stop complaining. You followed me. Anyway, here
That's
we
my
are.
favorite.
I love it.
So let's move on to something fun that I know we all took note of and then wanted to talk about today. I think everyone's
Wait,
from
wait,
what?
I'm sorry. I just remembered there was one more thing about this tournament. I saw the marketing of it. It was a PK Subban rant on
Oh,
ESPN that was
yes.
punching down the
Of
NBA
which
and
there
how,
are many.
I was gonna
Sorry.
say
I
which one?
mean, listen, how long we got? I want to make that the rest of the podcast. No, thanks. I don't think that hockey needs to punch down other sports to elevate itself. And that one really bugged me. People were like, well, look at it, the NBA, nobody cares. And I know it was going on at the same time as All-Star Weekend, and like he was ranting about the player salaries, and that one like drove me up a wall because I feel like hockey for so long has tried that, right? Like, oh, this player can't play because they have a hangnail. Look, my player's playing with a broken rib. And I just feel like that's been the wrong approach for so long that it's like, here, hockey is fun and you can just roll with it that way. Like, it just got me, and I was like, okay, am I the only one, or am I insane being like, this is the complete wrong direction? I guess I'm insane.
Um,
Am I? I don't know.
no,
I will
no,
say,
it's
go ahead, Sarah.
it sucks seeing Charles Barkley on TNT on his birthday with a Team USA shirt being so classy about hockey, saying how much he loves it. That's like big brother, little brother right there. If you're gonna shit on the NBA, meanwhile, NBA legend is like, wow, hockey is fucking awesome.
Yeah, I will say, as much as I'm done with the PK rants, that I did have some players and former players proactively mention that his rant about the All-Star game was actually correct. Not the punching down of it all, but the point of not being able to like we can't take a shift off idea, but
Yeah.
throwing that out
It's
there.
just the way you go about it
I
that
agree.
bothers
It's
me.
like we all
I
know
agree with
the
that.
All-Star game sucks and it's for kids. Like that's not breaking news. And there's one weekend we do something right and we had to use it to shit on people.
Yeah,
100%.
And I
please
get
like
what
my
you're
sport.
saying, Allison.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
but the objective facts weren't off.
Yeah.
All right, can I move on now, Shayna?
Yeah, sorry, I'm done.
Okay. No, no, no. It's good. It's good. Okay. So, something that we all took note of, I think that most people who follow along with hockey are familiar with every year, The Athletic does a player poll where they ask questions about who's the best player, who has the best facilities, things like this. And it's all very interesting, I think, even though I would always love more information on the actual sample size of who they talk to and a bigger understanding of how many teams, et cetera. But anyway, I digress. They released something this week that caught our eye, and it was an agent poll. So, looking at teams from more of a business perspective of teams that are better or more challenging to work with and markets and things like that. Sarah, I know you were really intrigued by this and had some observations. What did you think about the first of its kind? I'd love to see this every year along with the player poll myself.
Yeah, I think it's parts of it are hilarious because it's like obviously agents are going to say that, but obviously parts of it are illuminating. You take it with a grain of salt. I thought like we were talking about, we need to grow the game in America financially. A lot of them said, like the majority said they should expand in Houston because of they need more revenue. So that's kind of like that's an interesting part. I thought it was hilarious. Like almost 100% of them said that Connor McDavid should be making the most money possible or whatever, like of course. And then the most hated um, owner is Tom Dundon by far. And someone said that he's probably going to brag about this, which is the worst part. And like, but it's interesting because some of the more successful teams are also dubbed easier to work with. So it makes you think like, what's the perfect medium of hardball and getting something just fucking done. You know what I mean? Like, and I think it comes down to mutual respect.
Well, and I think too, part of it is also just honesty, right? Because Vegas ranked
Yeah.
pretty high in some of those categories,
Yeah.
and everyone thinks Vegas are assholes and, they're really cutthroat. But I think it's about honesty was kind of the thing that struck me too, was I also heard honesty and then people who've been on the other side, right? Like even Emily Castonguay got a vote
Yeah.
potentially, being up there just because she understands both sides of things. And we're moving towards this trend of having more voices that aren't just former hockey bros, but that have been on the other side of the business. Or, even you look at a Tulski who's got a completely different background. Shayna, what did you think of the survey?
Yeah, I really liked seeing teams like Tampa Bay rank up there because I feel like the narrative around Florida teams happens to be like, well, players want to sign there because of the tax advantage, and they just leave it at that. When it's like, who's the best run franchise? And it's like Tampa Bay because ownership has put in the work and has invested in that team and that environment. And the same goes with Florida, right? They were talking about last year the rink, the practice rink, and how players can just go there and it's like state of the art and things like that. Like they love the vibes of it all. And I liked seeing, yes, taxes come up in the conversation. Like from agents, I expect to see that, but who's the best front office to deal with and who's the best run franchise? Like I was happy to see not just Florida teams, but the untraditional markets go there because I feel like for those teams, sometimes you have to work a little bit harder to earn the respect. And it's nice to see that they did, right? Like that is growing the game in a different way.
It is. It will be interesting to see if they keep doing this. I think all three are fans of this continuing, right? Is that we want to see this survey happen year after year?
Yeah.
Yes, I like
Perfect.
this.
Perfect. All right. Yes, please do that, Athletic. All right. The only other bit O news we had, and we've been waiting to talk about this till the time was right, but, and I'm going to be honest, I'm going to own this. When this was announced, I was like, oh God, I just hope the game is interesting.
Yep.
And boy, is it going to be interesting because this Saturday, the Columbus Blue Jackets are hosting the Detroit Red Wings in the Stadium Series in the shoe, which honestly color me shocked because Ohio State's never going to do anything to help the Blue Jackets. So this is a goddamn miracle, but here we are. The two teams, as is tradition with these outdoor games, do face off tonight. Thursday is kind of an appetizer before they face off on Saturday. And these games are highly, highly relevant as both teams sit fighting for one or two of the final wild card spots in the East. But we're not here to talk about the hockey. We are here to talk about the fashion. Let's talk about the two Stadium Series jerseys. Let's start. Do you want me to bring them up and share them, or do you all have them up?
I
I
have
just
them
pulled
up.
them up.
Okay, perfect. All right. We have the Blue Jackets. I'm not going to read these descriptions because these descriptions manage to take all the fun out of everything. But they've taken a total seize of the cannon and they've made it huge. There's a star on the pants. There's some bold, and from what my understanding is, they're kind of a metallic-y silver on the, I don't know what you call them, the upside down V's. I guess it's supposed to inspire kind of a military throwback since that's the Blue Jackets Civil War themed version. And then we have the more classic Detroit. They'll be using the away whites with a red script Detroit, more looking like vintage Red Wings style. Sarah, you are our style guru. You have the floor first to tell us which one you like better and why.
Yeah, I was gonna say something inappropriate. I'm not. I can't do it. I I love them both. Holy shit, they're both amazing. And this is like the anti St. Louis Chicago game in that it's gonna be entertaining, it's gonna be fun, and they both have good jerseys. I don't know if I can pick one. I'm just happy about the friends we made along the way. I love the cannon front and center when it comes to the Blue Jackets. It's something so unique to this team, so unique to the actual name of the team and relevant to all aspects. And I love it. I love that Detroit did something a little different, but still classic. I like the arms. I like the armbands. I'm vibing with it all, and I can't pick one.
Shayna.
If I am just going jersey, I'm going to give it to Columbus. I love the cannon. I love that it's big details. And I know sometimes these jerseys look a little bit funky, but we have to keep in mind why, like, the numbers are positioned where they are and why things might be simpler because it's hard to see. And Allison, I know you've said it, like how hard it is to read these when the game's in action. So Columbus gets the edge for me for the jersey. I love it. I love the sheen of the silver on it, the Ohio shape
The
for
Ohio
the
C's and
letters.
A's is sick. Yeah.
Perfect. The overall look, I'm actually going to give to Detroit. Even when you go really up close on Detroit, there's like little, it looks like perforations on the lettering of Detroit and script, which is giving me like a baseball vibe, which I really appreciate. And the helmets, the stripe looks football-esque, which I like. And then the giant logo, like I would love to see these types of helmets in action on the ice in a regular game more often. I want to see teams get more creative with their helmets. And I feel like we're seeing the chrome domes and the matte helmets, and that's like the start. But this to me is really taking advantage of it. I'd love to see how it looks on the ice here versus in an NHL rink to see if there's a difference to it. But like they're really both well done. It's one of the best jersey matchups I think we've had in a minute. So I'm very excited about it just from that perspective alone.
Okay. If I had to buy one, it's the Detroit one. But if I had to pick one, to your point, Shayna, this is the point I was going to make. If I had to pick one for the game, it's the Columbus one. Because the Columbus one is going to look sick under the lights. It's going to be easy to see who's who, and it's different. And Detroit just looks like another Detroit jersey, right? Like it's not like unique and special. However, I have seen some of the, and I love the star on the pants of the Columbus kit too. I love the Ohio A and C. However, if I want to be a jerk about it, the corresponding merch, I've seen some of the hats and toques. The cannon, the barrel of the cannon is way too small. It needs to be bigger. It's like out of proportion. It is out of
No, that's a good note. Like the wheels are massive.
the wheels are too big. The jersey picture looks fine, but like on the merch that I've seen, it's too small. And also on the merch that I've seen, they have like that big star that's on the pant. They have it on the back of the hat, like literally almost the same size as it is on the pants. It's way too big. Like,
I haven't seen any of the like the merch to go with it. So
Me
yeah,
either.
yeah.
yeah, I guess I haven't looked.
But like on the merch that goes with it, that canon discrepancy in my mind is way, way off. And I hate the sleeves off the ice. Like, because they're like an
That's
upside down
fair.
V. I hate them. So,
Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
No, I haven't seen the merch and it's kind of funny too because like I know Fanatics is doing both, but it is funny how like we're getting cool jersey design still for some teams, but the merch to go with it just so falls short. And it's like that's why all these partnerships that they're doing are so important because it's giving you something like a lot more tasteful than what like the plain is offering. I just, what my like biggest gripe with this is, and I feel like these could have been like announced so much sooner, and I don't
mm,
understand why there isn't that much runway. I feel like people have to worry about whether or not they can get the jerseys in time, and that's been a theme with the Stadium Series before. And it's like, okay, for the Winter Classic, if it's a tighter turnaround, that's one thing, but like this is going to be on March 1st. Like, shouldn't you want it that people buy the jerseys for the game? Like, I don't know how well these would do after the game, like sale wise.
well, and I think too, what's hard about it, like someone had a tweet where they showed that like the timing of when they released it is actually right in line like with how much in advance they announce like a Winter Classic jersey or what have you. But I feel like with them, and I get that they don't want to cannibalize other events and all of that, but like my thing is when you release them this late, like you're missing holiday windows, you're missing opportunity, like total, like everyone's looking to buy something. Like Sarah, I don't know. I heard stories that like the Four Nations merch was just like flying off the shelves. Was that stuff going like crazy at the tournament?
Yeah, there was like, I know Jackie Redmond said in Montreal there was like one Team Canada jersey left, and that
Jeez.
was the case for Boston. I was scoping around a little bit, and yeah, that was flying off the shelf. So I have a Team USA jersey that they sent me.
I
I mean, I
saw.
I think it's pretty cheap. I gotta be honest. What am I gonna do? Lie? Come on. I didn't love the Four Nations jerseys, but like I'm not somebody that would buy that in any
Right.
universe. So it's not for
Yeah.
me. Fanatics also sent me Bruin sweatpants with Lululemon. Those are the most comfortable,
That's
best
sick.
things I've ever worn in my life.
Yeah.
But the jersey, like, just did not do it for me.
Yeah. Yeah. And I
It's
think,
the Fanatics. Oh, sorry, you go.
no, I was just gonna say, I think, and this is not me being a company person, like the Kraken jerseys last year were so sick. Like it's
Yeah.
so hard to top.
And then Vegas had those.
Yes.
Ugh.
No, but the Fanatics jerseys are so interesting to me. And like, okay, I have a little bit of a different perspective on it because I'm literally cutting these jerseys apart. And it's very funny, like from Reebok to Adidas to the Olympic Nike ones, which oh my God, I hate working with because they're so stretchy. They are the absolute worst. But the Fanatics ones are it's so different, the construction of them. So I understand that cheap feeling. Like when you cut the logo for others, like it's stitched, you have to burn the edges, you have to worry about things. And with those, it's like you're cutting it, and sometimes like the logo separates from the fabric, and you're like, this should have been glued down, then like there's
Yeah.
there's weird
Mm,
construction things with them that like I prefer to work with them for my purposes, but that makes it like a worse jersey. I feel like for the rest of the time, if that makes
That
sense.
makes sense.
It's
Yeah.
very odd. Like I wish that I know that there's different levels. I really do wonder each level of Fanatics jersey, just like everyone has those tiers of the prices, like how different they really are. But I'm underwhelmed. I'm very, and that's why like I'm saying the runway should be better because too, with Fanatics in mind, how many times do they get things wrong and then there's no way to correct it?
right.
Yeah.
Right. Shayna, have you always had a Gossip Girl mug down there?
Yeah, for like the last like year or so, my sister got me it for Hanukkah.
Okay, like I know you
Cute.
reorganize things periodically. That needs a more prominent spot, like up by your puck there. And your what is that green thing?
Yeah,
It's a green
this is
animal.
it's a
Is that a
jade
bear?
elephant. It's a
What is
jade
this?
elephant. It was my grandmother's.
Oh,
I have
oh
this
my
one and I have
Oh.
one
God.
other, and you're supposed to have it that like it faces towards the
Oh,
door, so
you're
like
feng
bad
shuiing it.
energy.
You're feng
Oh
shuiing
my
Yeah,
it. Good
God.
yeah.
Let's
job.
But let me put
go.
that here. I'm gonna put this.
This is your cue to watch the YouTube version
Okay,
of this
I
bye.
know.
podcast.
Do you know what was so funny? Like the other day, I got asked when, like,
You go to
about the
Derek's
Game
show.
Boy, and
Yeah,
I'm like dying because I have no idea where they are. The Game Boys and the toys, Rich rearrange. He changes things all the time. He comes in and tweaks them, but I
So
don't know my
cute.
lefts and rights, especially with this, that I'm like always so torn. But like the Gossip Girl mug is one thing I always know where that is.
yeah, we need to move that more prominently, I think. Definitely for
Yeah.
sure. Since
I feel
that's
like
such your brand.
this
There you
this
go.
is cute. And the
I like
burn
that.
book, I like that it gets
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
it's here for like actual purposes because as you can see, I use it to write write notes.
All right. Anything else on the upcoming Stadium Series, fashion or otherwise?
I'm pumped about this game. I really
I'm
am.
pumped
And
about the
I
game tonight too. Like this should be
yeah.
fun.
And
I
Ottawa
know.
losing last night really sets them
Yes.
up that like they're tied in the wild card standings. When that matchup came out, like you, Allison, I was like, why? Right?
Yeah.
Because the Blue Jackets, you didn't think were gonna like this was announced last year, and you were like, okay, and them versus the Red Wings, like it just felt like they were in two different places, and their surprising run has made this all the more fun. The fact that they're in the playoff race, but I feel like the fact that they're in it too, like it's gonna energize the crowd in a different way than the Chicago one did. You actually
Hmm.
have two teams that will be battling it out versus two teams you projected to be bad. Like
Yeah.
it's lining up so perfectly, and I feel like the vibes are going to be great just from the fan base. Like it worked out in a way that's so much better for the league. And I think the timing does help here because the games are way more important now.
Yeah, for sure. And again, I now I'm going to be old man shakes fist at cloud. Like when the matchup came up, it was so heavily leaning on football, which annoyed me. And people, if people don't know, Detroit and Columbus used to have sort of a rivalry when they were both in the West, but they haven't in a long time, and they haven't respectfully been relevant for like the past few years. So I was like, really, we're doing this, and I just hope that this game, just like we talked about Four Nations, like really bringing eyes to hockey, that this isn't pandering to football fans and instead is like, hey, if you're here because you're an Ohio State fan, now you're going to get into hockey. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
don't lose your
Yeah.
identity of it all. Like, it's just, anyway, stepping off
No,
my
that's
soapbox.
it is a great point. Because I really thought originally I'm like, if you wanted Columbus in the outdoor setting, which I did, just because they haven't really had it, you go, well, naturally I would think Pittsburgh, and then your
Exactly.
selling point is Sidney Crosby. And like I
And
couldn't be
Penn
more
State.
glad. Exactly.
Sorry.
But it couldn't have worked out better, right? Like in this way. But now it's like, okay, This is a playoff race. Every single one of these games is going to matter. And if
Yeah,
they get massive ratings, I know they've been shifting around what gets the national broadcast. Like, then put these on the national broadcast a little bit more. But then again, like that also I think gets overblown because at the end of the day, if you're gonna watch an ESPN exclusive game, it tells me you subscribe to Hulu, ESPN, or Disney, which you can watch the rest of the NHL package regardless. Like just promote it more.
100%. All right. We are going to do just a little bit of hockey talk because so much has happened, but again, not anything has happened. So we're going to finish up here with some hockey talk, looking at the four divisions and just saying as we go into the trade deadline and this final, depending on where your team or teams that you follow are, 20 to 25 games remaining in the regular season. We'll go division by division. What team are you excited for? And what team are you worried about? We will start in the East because we are East Coast biased right now. In the Atlantic, Sarah, what team are you excited for right now, given what their vibe is, and what team are you concerned about?
You know what? Who said first that the Columbus Blue Jackets were legit and to not count them out? I did. I did. And I said, stop calling this a feel-good story. This is a real story of a good hockey team, okay? And I'm very excited that they've proved me right. I am worried about the Ottawa Senators who have proved me not right quite yet. It seems like they're pissing everything away, likely thing for them to do.
Were those your East picks? Is that what you did?
Yes, I
That's
messed
cool.
up.
No, that's
Was
okay.
that,
No, no, no.
should we
That's fine.
go? Okay.
That's good. We'll go
I'm
full East. I like it because it is true.
okay.
That's the playoff spot is concerning. Is there anybody else you're excited for in the East?
Okay. I mean, the Washington Capitals, that's been my
No.
favorite story ever, and their vibes seem even better than they were in the locker room when they won the cup. So I'm excited about that.
Shayna in the East. Let's go full conference. I love it. Excited for, concerned about.
All right. Well, I was gonna go with Columbus, and then I'm like, I want to be different, and then I was gonna go with Washington, but I'm gonna
Sorry.
stick with Washington right now. The vibes are good. It's funny. I liked one of their videos on TikTok that like I started getting a ton, and it's them with Chikrin wearing headbands, and
Yeah.
Ovechkin has like a song for the headbands, and they're all like
Oh
dancing
no.
and shuffling around, and it's so funny. Like it's their like pregame habits and everything like that. The vibes in that locker room seem great. I love them in the sense that I love how management pulled off a retool and they did wait that year because I don't think we knew how well it was going to work their sell off to them buying. Like I like that they waited, saw what Carberry could do, and then addressed the team. But I think that they're like this blueprint in a sense. Like obviously there's no single path to copying a team, but using them as a blueprint to figure out like how to quickly retool. There are so many teams I look at in this conference that should be taking note of selling and then using those assets to buy and figure out what to do to get younger and blend the new with the old in a way that's so exciting. And it's also showing the impact of a good coach. Like they are one of the best stories for like 10 different reasons. So love that for them. Who am I concerned about? I mean, it's really tough because there definitely are a couple options here, and Ottawa is a good one. I'm gonna go with the New Jersey Devils. I'm gonna change it up.
Ooh,
I mean,
spicy.
fair.
Yeah,
Yeah,
valid.
They're falling down.
that game last night. Like at first I'm like, wow, Jake Allen looks good, and then I'm watching it. I'm like, James Casey saved a goal, and Dougie Hamilton saving a goal, and he looks so frantic that they have to do it. And it's not just as simple as saying, well, once they get Markstrom back, because I think we saw, I think it was after the holiday break, their defense, which was like sick for a month, completely fell apart. The offense fell apart. And you look at that team, and that's a team where they're positioned. You're like, you should only have to get one or two pieces, and you'll be fine for the deadline. Now I'm like, does your whole top nine need an overhaul? Do you need a new third line? Like, there's so many issues right there that I'm like, maybe they're really not as ready as I thought they'd be, and they like step back in ways I didn't anticipate. So, good luck to management there. I feel like they went in the wrong direction and tried to get too tough this year, and now it's biting them.
Okay, I want to keep us on time, so just answer this with the name, no explanation. If both teams makes the playoffs, who gets your vote for coach of the year, Evison or Carberry?
Carberry.
Okay, Shayna.
I'm gonna go Evison.
Okay, interesting. We'll watch that for sure. Okay, Sarah, your picks in the West, you're excited for and you're concerned about.
Okay, excited for Fucking Colorado Avalanche.
Okay.
Um, Nervous about LA Kings.
Ooh, interesting. I know. I thought they
My,
might pull it out last night.
yeah,
Why did
they
they
just
not play
can't.
Fiala on that top line all night? Why?
I guess Doughty's coming back, so maybe everything will be fine. Maybe not though.
Till they play Edmonton
Yeah,
again.
yeah,
In the
exactly.
first round. Exactly. Shayna, your picks in the West?
I mean, I'm excited for the Winnipeg Jets.
Okay.
I swear every time I get behind them though, they let me down. But I really do think this is the best version of the team we've seen. But please rest Connor Hellebuck down the stretch so we can be good in the playoffs. I can't say it enough. Um, I am worried the Canucks are too easy of an answer there. I'm gonna go with the Wild. I'm gonna say
Oh, it's a good
I'm a
call.
little worried about the Wild.
Injuries,
Those
injuries.
injuries. Yeah, and now it's like, well, are they gonna buy? And it's like maybe just stand pat, don't do anything, and position yourself for next year when you have all this cap space. Like, don't move any assets for unless it's for like a long-term piece, right? If you can get a center with 4 years on up term, like go off, but otherwise,
Because those
just
are just
just wait.
everywhere.
Well, like, if they went for the reclamation project like Dylan Cousins, I'd be like, okay, I'm intrigued.
Okay. All right. We will be back with some hockey talk next week, but I'm going to tease to you all right now that we are so excited for what next week's episode is going to bring. We have a very special guest, someone we have wanted to have on this show for a long, long time. The three of us, even on vacation, were madly texting to make sure that we could make this happen. So I can't encourage you all enough to watch for that episode. It'll come out next week. But until then, we will wrap this episode with everyone's favorite game, except for Steven. And apparently my friend John, who just let me know he slow scrolls past it too now. Fuck,
Unreal.
marry, kill. And this week, we're going to finish up this whole Four Nations discourse with fuck, marry, killing three tweaks that happened to the rules in that tournament. And we will FMK them in terms of which ones we'd like to see come to the NHL. Sarah, are you ready for your options?
Yes.
Here we go. 10-minute overtime, color versus color matchups in terms of jerseys, or the 3-2-1 point system. The floor is
I'm
yours.
I'm marrying 3, 2, 1. You see how fucking easy that was? You see how easy that was? You see how satisfying that was? I am fucking the 10-minute overtime. Love it, obviously, but I prefer 3-on-3. I think it was so much fun to see that Mitch Marner goal because the best part about these USA Canada games was nobody had an inch. So it's like getting to see these players have an inch and what they did with it. It was like, okay, of course, Mitch Marner scored the goal. And then I'm going to kill the color on color because I don't know if everybody knows this, but it's not against the law. Like Tom Dundon has caused another stir. Like a few years ago, he decided to just do whatever he wanted with the jerseys, and it's under owners' control. So if owners would just kind of like grow up and do it, then it wouldn't be hard.
Don't they have to get league approval though, I think? Like they can do whatever,
Yeah,
but
and
they
the
have to get
league
league
be
approval.
approving it.
Yeah. Yeah, literally. All right, Shane, because Columbus did that a couple years too. Like they wanted to wear a different
Yeah,
pant, and as long as they got league approval, they did it.
yeah.
Shayna?
Okay, I'm gonna fully agree. The 3-2-1 point system, I think, is this slam dunk to marry. We see how well it works in the PWHL. I think it makes every game more important because we saw it. You can't just reach overtime or you can't just win this right. Like, there's a lot more on the line. I think it would make things a lot more fun down the stretch. And it does, it's not massive swings on the standings either. I remember last year I did the math and it wasn't like these huge swings, but the swings matter enough. Just if you want everything to be so tightly contested, like this is the way to do it, I think. This is the way that you don't have loser points being as much of a conversation, or can they not win in regulation? Like make it all matter a little bit more, especially the league that wants games to end sooner. Like you will see bolder moves at the end of regulation in a 3-2-1 point system down the stretch, right? You might see a goalie pull if the game is tied just to get that extra point. Like that's what you should want. That's going to up the drama. I will fuck the 10-minute 3-on-3 overtime. I love it. It's perfection. But realistically, I know it's never going to happen. I would like to see 7 minutes. So that's why I have to like, I think 7 minutes is going to be like that. That's more sellable to the players because I know for some teams too, they don't want it that they have to use a fourth liner in 3-on-3 overtime. And I get that, even though maybe it can help unlock the game in a different way you never knew. But with that in mind, of course, an 82 game season, which is far too long, maybe 10 minutes is too long, but start at 7 and then work your way up. I will kill the color v color. I love it, but not every game can be color v color because of things like color blindness and not everything always working out. I think that if you do it too often, it's going to lose its flair unless you had a team that used yellow or beige a little bit more as your away color. But I think for special occasions like the Stadium Series, like the Winter Classic, like maybe a big marquee matchup, I liked how the NFL had color rush games, but they had them once a week, so it wasn't as special. I think there's a way to figure out, once a month there's a color rush game that's like it's unspoken. It's not called that because that would be lame, but it's a random one you pinpoint that works. So I think you can add that in, but you don't have to like commit to something.
All right. And I'd picked this before you both went. I am marrying 10-minute overtime because here's the thing. Like there is nothing more downletting than going from the dynamicism of an overtime to a shootout. And I would argue, particularly with some of these shootouts, the time ends up probably equaling out, right? Because even if it goes like another 5 minutes, you're probably equaling out a shootout. And if you had a 10-minute overtime, I think since that's the option, teams would be more incentivized to play harder for the final point, which is why people hate the loser point. They hate the loser point because you see teams go, okay, we'll just play for overtime. Okay, we'll just go to the shootout, right? Like if you know this is your only option, and I would rather see games decided that way. With that being said, then I would marry 3-2-1 because, like you said, Shayna, it is a swing, but it's not a huge swing. So therefore, push that aside. And I'm surprised, Shayna. I thought you would put color versus color higher, but by process of elimination, I will kill color versus color.
I wish I didn't have to, but because I love it, but I do know like if we had a Red Wings Wild color v color game, like it doesn't work, and that's okay. Like that's fine. Like it's not gonna work for everybody, but like Predators Maple Leafs, because it's about the we had to bring them in somehow.
There you
Like
go.
give me
Good
color v
job.
color. Like let's go.
All right, everyone, that will do it for us this week. We so appreciate you following along, listening to us. Please subscribe to us both in your favorite podcast app and on YouTube, where you can find us at 2_much_man. That's the same handle we have on Twitter and on Instagram. And on BlueSky, we are at 2_much_man. If you want to get your own Too Many Men merch, you can. You can go to too many men merch.com. I'm going to be open and honest with you and tell you our supplier is having some shipping delays. So just be aware of that. We apologize. I'm writing nasty emails almost every week. I'm sure they love me. It's so much fun. But it is there for you. And until we talk again, which will be with a very special guest. I can't believe how excited we are. Very special guest. Please, we ask you to do something, no matter how big or small, to make sure that hockey truly is for everyone. We will talk to you soon.
Love you.
Bye.